All right, JP Priester, it's Thursday night, so we're going to talk Clemson baseball. But as I was telling you before we started, before we hit the live button, this is the vegetarian edition of the Clemson baseball show. There is no beef. Beef's on the road tonight, so I didn't want him to call in from the rest area. Now you called in from Doug Kingsmore once, which is really cool, but we decided not to have the beef call in, just let him drive. I don't know where he's at. He's always driving with that job. So it's just you and me. Now, we usually go about 20, 22 minutes on this. Without the beef, it might be like 9 minutes. So people better tune in quickly.
Hey, we'll muddle on through, man.
We'll make it. I'll do my best beef impression with some statistics here. All right, since we last talked, Clemson's 2-2. They won another ACC series, beating Notre Dame, and then lost to Georgia in a heartbreaker kind of ish on Tuesday night. But JP, the Tigers are 22-16 to 6-9 in the ACC, and they are not in last place in the ACC anymore. That belongs to Florida State, believe it or not, who's headed for a losing season in Tallahassee. So it could be worse. Now, that's consecutive series wins, as I mentioned, 6-9 in the ACC. They're fighting, for their lives to get that ACC tournament, which is really scary to say. Some positives from last week. Ethan Darden, we talked about the struggles of Austin Gordon on Fridays in general. Ethan Darden started Friday night and he struggled. So maybe it's a Friday night thing because Austin Gordon turned around on Saturday and gave him 6 1/3 shutout innings to get his first win of the year, and had an inning and 2/3, I believe, by Nick Clayton to finish it up. Then on Sunday, Grice threw 4 1/3, a lot of pitches, but the bullpen was solid, and Clayton got the win. So your overall take from the Notre Dame series?
Yeah, I thought there were a lot of positives. The bats are still rolling, rolling right along. You got several guys hitting the ball well. Cam Canarella just keeps plugging right along. Will Taylor's quietly having a really good season. Pitching, you starting to get some guys healthy. Saw Ryan Ammons come back Tuesday night. He was getting warm a couple times in the bullpen over a weekend if they would have needed him then. But another guy that hasn't been talked about is Rob Hughes, who's now healthy. And we've seen him twice now in the past 2 or 3 games, and he has been phenomenal out of that bullpen, man. He has been pretty dang good, a pleasant surprise, after missing all of last season, if my memory serves correct. But it's not going to get any easier this weekend for them. They've already played one of the toughest schedules in the country. Now they go to Raleigh to play North Carolina State. State's coming off a 3-game sweep of Florida State. I think they dropped 2 to Wake Forest before that and took 2 out of 3 from Louisville before that. So North Carolina State, we're talking about a top 10 RPI team, and they are playing pretty solid baseball right now.
Yes, the Wolfpack is 25-11, and here's your kicker: they're 19-4 at home, 8-9 in the ACC, but they started 13-0. So there's been some regression to the mean, as the nerds would say. And you mentioned the bats for Clemson. Cam Cannarella's at 411, and he leads the team again with 30 RBI. It's kind of him and Grice are going back and forth for the RBI lead. But Cannarella's got 17 stolen bases also to lead the team. Will Taylor's at 321, Cooper Ingle at 318. Grice has gone down a bit. For a while there, he's around the 350 range, but he's got 8 homers, leads the team there, and 29 RBI. So just one behind Cam Cannarella. But somebody who's come up big the last couple of weeks here is Billy Amick, who's still batting 386, or way up there at 386. I don't know if he's still batting 386. 4 homers.
386.
4 homers and 17 RBI. So he's come on a little bit when he gets the chance to play.
Yeah, talk about another pleasant surprise, man. He is absolutely raking at the plate right now. And he is jumping on a lot of first pitches to do it. So he did it again against Georgia the other night. He kind of had – he was the hero of that win against Georgia the week before last with that 3-run homer. But, he is playing with a lot of confidence right now. Absolutely.
All right. We mentioned Ethan Darden, Austin Gordon, and Caden Grice, and that looks like is what I saw was the They're sticking with that same rotation. So I don't, maybe they're just going to give it a couple of weeks. Darden didn't look that good to me Friday night against Notre Dame, but they're going to get another shot this weekend. That's is the rotation for Clemson. And for North Carolina State, I put their thought I had their rotation here somewhere. Looks like Darden is going to face Logan Whitaker, who's 3-2 with the 3.83 ERA. Gordon is going to face a lefty, Dominic Fritton, who's 2-2 with the 2.08 ERA. And Grice is going to be, to be announced. You mentioned NC State was a top 10 RPI team. What do you think the chances are this weekend Tigers make it 3 ACC series in a row?
Oh, that's going to be tough to go up there and take 2 out of 3 from those guys. I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done because I think it can. But yeah, absolutely. You touched on it at the top. You got to get more out of your Friday night guy. Ethan Darden's, he's been solid for the most part. He has now made, let's see, golly, I had it pulled up here a minute ago. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 starts. 2 of those, he's been solid in 4 of them, in 2 of them not so much. And one of those was his first ACC start against Notre Dame. And back at talked a little bit. I think it was Sunday night after the 3rd game against Notre Dame where he said they were going to probably give Darden another shot Friday night. And we saw the rotation come out today, and that's what they're going to do. We'll see if he can put forth a little bit better of an effort this weekend than compared to last weekend. I think he's a better pitcher than what we saw against Notre Dame. He's had pretty good stuff for the most part, but got to keep in mind he's still a freshman. He's not this big overpowering guy. If he's off a little bit, doesn't have that command, he's going to struggle. And he didn't have it last time out. Hopefully he will this time because it's. Let's face it, it all starts on Friday night. And Clemson's been fortunate these last 2 series. They've dropped both Friday night games, come back to get the final 2 in each of those series. It'd be nice to see if they could jump on a team on a Friday night here for once. Because I really like the way the rotation sets up after Friday. I think Gordon is kind of a prototypical Saturday guy, and I really like Grice in that Sunday role too.
Yeah, you mentioned that last week, and I was gonna that leads me into what I wanted to talk about next in the bullpen. That seems to be firming up a bit. The roles are firming up a bit with Reed Garris, and Nick Clayton had a big weekend last weekend. And in both of the wins, he was a huge factor. I mean, he got one win and closed out the other. So huge factor, Clayton, last weekend, and the bullpen in general.
Yeah, I think the bullpen's been a lot better over the past, 2 or 3 weeks. It was very shaky. You didn't know what you were going to get over the first month, 6 weeks, whatever it was. But I think as we've gotten further into the season and we've seen some of those guys get their roles defined, this coaching staff is figuring out where they best fit in. And I think it's settled down a little bit. And Nick Clayton has really carved out a role for himself on this pitching staff. They made a little tweak with his delivery, changed his arm angle, and it has just totally changed the kind of pitcher he is, man. His stuff is just it is fun to watch him pitch, man, because the ball is just moving all over the place, and hitters absolutely struggle against him. It's wild when you compare it to last year when he was struggling so mightily. Man, he is just a totally different pitcher under this new pitching staff. They have worked wonders with him, and he's not the only guy, man. I think we are starting to see a lot of improvements with a lot of different pitchers under this new coaching staff.
I would definitely agree with that. Clayton is 3-0. He's appeared in 15 games with a 1.59 ERA. He's only given up 20 hits and 28 in a third inning, so he is really getting the job done, and opponents are only batting .202 off of him. Reed Garris has been there all season, though. He's been really consistent. He's 2-0, 15 appearances also, only 17 in the thirds, 2.60 ERA, and opponents are batting .215. So those are 2 guys right there. And I'll even say this: Olenchuk has improved since, or at least is better since from the beginning of the season when he was giving up. It seemed like a home run or 2 every time he went out. His ERA is down to 3.68. So, like you said, that coaching staff, it's taken a while. But I think we're starting to see the difference. The team ERA is still 4.5, a little bit high, but not too bad for college baseball, right? They're getting there, I think.
Yeah, I think Reed Garris is another guy kind of like Clayton that doesn't get talked about a lot, but he's for the most part he has been really good out of that bullpen. Again, it's not all perfect. He's had a bump here and there, but he's been fairly consistent for the most part. But yeah, Ty Olenchuk, a guy who I thought was basically throwing batting practice to start the season. I mean, he got in and basically just
South Carolina. Woof.
Yeah, and his last few times out, he has been very solid. He pitched against Georgia the other night. I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 innings of scoreless. I think he didn't give up a run. Gotten that ERA way down because it was in double digits there for a while. So I mean, again, he is another guy that this. I think Nick Hoffman has gotten a lot better under this staff. I think he still got some improving still to do, but he's a guy who has gotten better under this staff. Like Ty Olenchuk has. We could just go on and on about some of these pitchers that have improved as the year has gone on. And I'm kind of, I don't want the season to hurry up and be over, but, man, I can't wait to see some of these guys next season after they've got a full year under their belt under this coaching staff.
It will be interesting to see the growth from year 1 to year 2. In football, they often say that's the real tell, right? Because you come in, you've kind of got the team you're going to have, right? Not so much anymore with the transfer portal, but to some extent, you've got the team you're going to have. You've got to teach them to play that you want them to play. And next year should be a lot better year for Clemson. We talked about NC State, 25-11, 19-4 at home, 8-9 in the ACC after a 13-0 start on the season. So they're, once they hit the ACC play, roughly 500, a little bit better. Team batting average of 308, JP. They have 59 home runs. We were talking about Ty Olenchuk giving up some home runs. So we could see some long ball this week in Raleigh from the Wolfpack. And their ERA is 3.89 as a team. So I don't know. Good pitching, long ball for NC State. As you said, it may be tough for the Tigers to take 2 out of 3 this weekend, but it's baseball, right? So who knows? This is not the all or nothing football. Who knows what will happen this weekend?
No, you never know what will happen. Clemson, they really need to go up there and win 2 out of 3. Make no mistake. If we're talking about postseason and ACC tournament, they need to go up there and take 2 out of 3. But sitting here as a realistic, I try to be as realistic as possible. And knowing this is a transition year, first year coaching staff, you go out there and take 1 out of 3, man. I think you got to be happy with that as a fan. I know those coaches and players wouldn't be happy with that, but as a fan, it'd be hard to be that upset about it. But it is a big series, make no mistake. And if there is one, like you just said, North Carolina State hits a lot of home runs, and if there is one area that the pitching staff has been susceptible to, it is giving up the long ball, and they are one of the tops in the ACC when it comes to giving up home runs. I don't know if they are at the top or if they're not the top team in the league. They are one of the top teams in the league when it comes to home runs allowed.
All right. So Friday night, 6 p.m., Saturday, 4 p.m., Sunday at 1 p.m. All those are on the ACC Network Extra, also known as the Spurtles channel. JP, we talked a little bit before the show about what you had going on the next couple of weeks, but what are you working over on at allclemsontigers.com?
Well, I'm working on a little bit of recruiting stuff tonight. So if you're a recruiting fan, check out allclemsontigers.com over the next couple of days. I might have some stuff that might pique your interest.
Will there be any sunglasses involved in the next couple of weeks?
You know what? There is a pair that's floating around out there. They've been floating around about 6 weeks, I think, now. They're still floating around out there. So,
I wonder who that could be. AllClemsonTigers.com.
I don't think they're going to be floating around too much longer, though. So.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. A little bit shorter show tonight because we don't have the beef to do all the research on North Carolina State. let's put it this way. They hit the ball, they hit it hard, they hit it far.
Very good baseball team.
Very good baseball team, top 10 in the RPI. And that'll be it for tonight. A little bit shorter show, but hopefully we'll be back next week. And hopefully the Beef will be back next week to give us a rundown on next week's opponent, which will be Boston College, by the way, who's also come back to earth a little bit, I believe. For Jason Priester of all ClemsonTigers.com, I'm Marty Coleman, SouthernNewsObserver.com. Until next Thursday, thanks for tuning in.